President Biden and Vice President Harris met in the Situation Room today with national security officials. Uh, the reason? Well, because an Iranian strike on Israel, again, an Iranian strike on Israel is pretty much all but certain. Um, Iran vowed to retaliate following the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh, who is a top Hamas political leader. Uh, it, it was unavoidable when you assassinate one of the leaders of Hamas that there's going to be a response. Well, the United States and G7 members are urging Iran to limit its attack in an effort to avoid an all out war in the region. Now, that's again, I'm going to say that again. They're telling them to limit the attack. In all, it's you can't expect Iran not to retaliate. That is an unrealistic, immature, unsophisticated analysis and/or expectation if you think that's going to happen. So all you can do is ask Iran to have more targeted strikes in response. Again, I'm not endorsing war in general, but I am saying people have a right to self-defense. People have a right to respond. Um, Iran's foreign ministry told reporters today that it does not wish to deepen tensions, but that it has a right to punish Israel within the bounds of international law. Notice how other countries appeal to international law. They don't just be up here doing stuff. You know what I'm saying? They don't just be up here doing stuff. They actually follow international law. It's a thing. It's a thing. And I wish more international law adherence would happen from the United States and from Israel, but it ain't happening. Let's say, just for argument's sake, though, that if Iran does extend beyond the scope or the boundaries of international law, you will see a full-scale regional war. If Israel retaliates again and they go tit for tat, you're going to see full-scale regional war. The question is, will the United States come to Israel's defense again? There are reports that President Biden is fuming right now after realizing that the hostage deal talks were actually just a stalling tactic. Literally just a stalling tactic. All the stuff about we're going to trade our hostages, we're going to make this exchange, we're going to, produce peace. All of that was Netanyahu just biding time, filibustering, so that he could continue to carry out his genocidal war in Gaza. So Joe Biden right now is very, very angry, allegedly. The problem is Joe Biden being angry doesn't mean a whole lot. And this is happening against the backdrop, by the way, of protests in Israel. Israeli citizens are taking to the streets. They are accusing Netanyahu of choosing escalation over the hostage deal. So you have Biden who's mad. You have the Israeli citizenry that's mad. You have people all around the world saying, why are you ratcheting up military aggression? Why are you ratcheting up war? Why are you beating the war drums right now, Netanyahu, when you could be actually securing hostages, which satisfies your home base, which also would allow for a permanent ceasefire, would allow for the creation of a peace deal. But he's not doing that because Netanyahu, let's be clear, Benjamin Netanyahu does not remain prime minister during a time of peace. Benjamin Netanyahu becomes disposable once there's a peace deal. So Benjamin Netanyahu wants, for sure, Netanyahu wants there to be permanent war. And so that's why, right at a moment where it seemed like they might be striking a deal, right? Qatar, Egypt, the United States, they were all brokering a deal. He starts getting closer to peace. He invades Rafah. Next thing you know, evacuation orders in Nusrat in Gaza City. To what extent? More bombing. Peace deal coming. Oh, Ismail Haniyeh is now a target. At every moment where it seems like Netanyahu can create peace, he creates more turmoil because he wants to stay in a state of war so that he can remain prime minister. Because once he's not at war, he's probably not prime minister. And once he's not prime minister, he might be locked up. They won't let him out. So you can understand why your boy is doing that. Joe Biden is in a position where he was trying to show unwavering support of Israel, which of course is a fool errand and unethical and deeply immoral. Joe Biden is doing what U.S. presidents do. They're showing that they have not an inch of daylight between the United States and Israel. So he's like, bro, I'm trying to have your back, but you keep wilding. I had a homie like that in college. His name was Wally. Wally, every time we went to the club, Wally wanted to fight. And we was all from Philly, so we'd all fight. If you went out, if I didn't want to fight at some point, right? It was like, yo, but like we outside, like, and he fighting, we fighting, right? Because we all together. So at some point, it's like, I can't go to the club with you, homie, because the boy every time we go out, he want to fight. We end up fighting. So I stopped going out with him, so we wouldn't have to fight. That's what Biden is right now. He's like, look, I am. That's fair, Ben. That's fair. That's fair. Withdrawn, Your Honor. But fundamentally, Biden is now saying, look, Netanyahu, I'm trying to rock with you, but you keep setting stuff off, and I don't want you to do that. But Biden has put his political future, his political bones, his political legacy, not so much his future, but his legacy, in being a stalwart ally to Israel, just like every U.S. president pretty much has done. That's why the moment for Kamala Harris is so interesting and powerful. Regardless of what Kamala Harris has said in the past, regardless of her allegiance to AIPAC, regardless of her allegiance to Israel in the past in terms of the words that she has used, now is a moment to reset relations. Now is a site of possibility to do something different. Let's see what Vice President Harris does. Let's not assume the worst. Let's see what she says. Let's see what she does. Even if she is just calling for a permanent ceasefire, not a ceasefire. She called for a ceasefire months ago, but a permanent ceasefire. If she does that, it's a hell of a sign. That is a hell of an improvement from Biden, who refuses to show, again, even an inch of daylight between the U.S. And Israel. It's not an ultimate solution, but we know what Trump's going to be, and we know what Biden has been. So we ain't got much to lose right now. Let's figure something out. But at the end of the day, Iran's response to Israel killing Ismail Haniyeh is within the bounds of international law. The nation, the global community is simply asking them to stay in that zone. But if they do, we have to expect something else. A year ago, the Middle East was as tumultuous as it always is, right? There was no reason to think that things were going to get better. But what we've seen since October 7th has been so much worse. You know, not only have we seen a genocide in Gaza, but we've also seen Netanyahu engage in provocations against Lebanon and against and against Iran. And in doing so, you now have multiple areas. I mean, if you think about the northern border of Israel, turmoil. If you think about what's happening in the Red Sea with Ansar Allah or Houthis, turmoil. If you think what's happening in Gaza, turmoil, right? If you think about what's happening in Lebanon, turmoil. And so we are dangerously close to maybe not a World War III scenario, which is sort of what Donald Trump has been boo-hooing about or chicken littling about, but we are very close to something else. And the question is, and this is a question for you all, should the U.S. keep helping Israel and ignore Netanyahu's repeated provocations? Is it possible for Iran to retaliate against Israel without sparking a wider war? And if it isn't, should Iran do it anyway? Share your thoughts in the chat.